Joseph Curl of the Daily Wire encourages his readers to have a laugh at this idea in his article entitled, quote, "Al Gore says dumbest thing ever. Global warming means bitter cold," end quote. Here he's referring to that previously quoted Michael Mann article, and while he feels confident enough to describe this idea as the dumbest thing ever, in all caps, he makes absolutely zero effort to contend with the scientific claims made within the article. He starts out by showing a tweet posted by Al Gore where he shared that Climate Reality Project article. Then Curl writes the following, quote, "That's right, Gore is saying this weather we're having proves that the climate is changing," end quote. This is of course a reference to the idea that individual weather events can't be described as directly, necessarily caused by climate change. Yes, while we can't say that one particular snowstorm was caused by global warming, we can say that as a result of these mechanisms, the overall incidence and severity of these types of snowstorms will increase over time. There's no contradiction or problem here, and you'll have to excuse Al Gore for not making that careful, nuanced distinction in his 140-character tweet. Curl then points out that Al Gore has been wrong about one particular global warming-related claim in the past. Quote, Gore, you'll remember, famously said, quote, "The entire North Polarized Cap will disappear in 5 years," end quote. That was in 2008. We haven't been there ourselves to check, but we're pretty sure the polar ice cap is still there, end quote. Okay, so the consequences of global warming haven't materialized as rapidly as some expected them to. This doesn't prove that global warming isn't happening. Ha ha, Arctic ice isn't melting as fast as this guy said it would, even though it's still totally melting, as the scientific data makes absolutely clear to anybody who takes 5 fucking seconds to Google this and check. According to data from NASA and the National Snow and Ice Data Center, as of 1980, the average September extent of Arctic sea ice was about 7.5 million square kilometers. As of 2017, not even 40 years later, it's down to about 4.5 million square kilometers. This is almost a reduction in half in just 40 years. We're pretty sure the polar ice cap is still there. Yeah, it's there, and it's melting, rapidly, as the data makes clear to anybody who cares to examine it. To his credit, Joseph Curl did muster the energy to Google something, however. As he continues, quote, "We did find this on the interwebs, quote, ice growth during November 2017 averaged 30,900 square miles per day, end quote, according to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, end quote. And here he showcases how truly embarrassingly ignorant he is about the subject, assuming he's not being intentionally deceptive. Anybody who knows anything about Arctic ice will tell you that there is an annual seasonal pattern of much of the ice melting during the Arctic summer and then refreezing during the Arctic winter. This is fact number 3 that you should know about Arctic ice. Number 1 being that it's ice, number 2 that it's in the Arctic. The way he presents this quote makes it seem like Arctic ice is actually increasing in extent overall. It's not melting, it's growing, just look at the data. I have no doubt that many in his audience interpreted the quote in this way and added this idea to the library of falsehoods that they have downloaded into their minds. This quote, however, is simply referring to the seasonal trend that always takes place during the Arctic winter. As we read on the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the same organization that he's quoting from, quote, "The Arctic sea ice maximum marks the day of the year when Arctic sea ice reaches its largest extent. The sea ice maximum occurs at the end of the winter cold season. The Arctic cold season usually begins in September and ends in March," end quote. Given that November is squarely within the Arctic cold season, ice growth during this part of the year is to be expected, and seasonal ice growth does not refute the idea of overall year-round ice shrinkage. As the same organization also writes, the organization whose data he's trying to use to refute the idea of ice melting, quote, "According to scientific measurements, both the thickness and extent of summer sea ice in the Arctic have shown a dramatic decline over the past 30 years, end quote. What is the average yearly extent of Arctic ice? That is the informative question to ask, and the measurements unequivocally demonstrate that Arctic ice is shrinking over time. But the more basic point that Joseph Curl makes is a foolish one. Al Gore was wrong about something once. Therefore, what? He must be wrong about this other thing too? This is not how truth works. Each claim needs to be independently evaluated. If I mistakenly tell you that Frank is wearing a hat today when he's actually not wearing one, that doesn't automatically make me incorrect when I say the sky is blue, or when I say that the stupidity of this article makes me want to hang myself from a ceiling fan. And Al Gore isn't even the author of that article. He's just sharing it on Twitter. So what does him being incorrect about one particular prediction have to do with the conclusions reached in an article that wasn't even written by him? The only quotes from that Climate Reality Project article that Curl cares to present are quotes that simply state the conclusions reached. He doesn't share any of the sections that go about plainly demonstrating the truth of these conclusions. He also doesn't care to explain to his readers how the proposed mechanisms actually wouldn't work that way. Instead of grappling with the scientific ideas discussed in the article, instead of attempting to refute the conclusions reached by providing scientific references of his own, Joseph Curl offers a devastating refutation of these ideas by sharing a few tweets where people were making fun of Al Gore. Look at this frozen boat, the USS Al Gore. Why actually study the scientific evidence when I can just post some stupid meme? Al Gore said the ice would be melted by now, but it's not. Even though it's still melting at an alarming rate, as I'd quickly discover if I got off Twitter and actually did some fucking research. These people clearly have no idea what they're talking about, and neither does Joseph Curl. These are perfectly reasonable and well-supported scientific explanations for how global warming could exacerbate certain localized cold weather events, and nothing within his article remotely approached even attempting to refute these ideas. Going forward, in order to avoid further embarrassment, Joseph Curl should do the world a favor and write about anything that's not science. I'm on Patreon. There's a link in the description if you'd like to support my content. I would really appreciate it. There's also social media links in there if you want to follow me there. I'm trying to build up some of those followings. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos if you haven't already. Hit the bell, hit the like button, post a fucking comments. All that fun stuff that's standard on YouTube. You know the fucking drill. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.